Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I would like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is the last one in our monthly series of webinars for BNI Connect at the member and leadership team level. Today we're going to be talking about the leadership team tools and reports. So we're going to be going through a lot of different things that most leadership teams around the country and around the world and how they interact with BNI Connect. One thing to keep in mind is that I'm going to keep today's webinar relatively position agnostic, meaning it's not always the case that vice presidents always do this function, or secretary treasurers always do this function, or visitor hosts always do this function. Although it may be true that maybe most regions do it that way, there is some differences around the world when it comes to the delegation of assignments. So that being said, regardless of whether you're a president or a vice president or a secretary treasurer or a visitor host or a growth coordinator or a mentor coordinator, I like to show all of these functionalities in one place, and also for the reason that you may be able to help each other out. For example, if in your region, which is the case in probably most regions, that the vice president is the person entering the POMS report, what happens when the vice president goes away on vacation for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or they're sick? Why not be able to jump in as the president or the secretary treasurer and help out with that particular task for that week or for those 2 weeks? So that's why I tend to show all of these together in one grouping. Couple of other housekeeping things before we get started with today's content, and that is this is a live webinar. So if you have any questions, and Patricia, I see that you've already posted a question, but if you have any questions, please do feel free to post those questions into the question panel. I'll see them pop up on my screen right away, and I'll be able to answer them as we're going through the webinar today. If it's something that's unrelated, I do save those ones till the end, and we'll be able to go over the questions at that time. Couple of other things. This is also being recorded, so will be made available in a couple of different places after we are done today. The first place is going to be on the support site. So if you're logged into BNI Connect, and if you see this question mark in the upper right-hand corner up here, click on that question mark. That will take you over to the support site. Here you'll see our list of recorded webinars, and if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see chapter training and documentation. Within chapter training and documentation, you'll see the recorded webinars split up by month. So every month we do the complete series, and for this month you can click on March, and I do hope to have the one there as soon as possible. So you can check them out there. You can also check them out on our YouTube channel directly. So if you go to youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, we host all of our recorded content up here. So not only do we have the webinars up here, but you also have all of the educational moments and special messages from Dr. Meisner and all sorts of things up here on the YouTube channel. So if you'd like to be notified when new content gets uploaded, just subscribe to us at youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. All right, so if you guys are ready, let's get started today. Oh, one other thing is that most of the time, the member webinars that we do are about 30 minutes. That being said, today's content, the leadership team, it seems to always generate a lot of questions. Therefore, this one usually goes over a little bit. We usually end up being on this call for sometimes 45 minutes or even an hour. That being said, I am always happy to stay on these calls until every single question has been answered. So please don't feel like you're limited in time with me. I'm happy to stay here and as long as you guys would like to. This is what I do all day, every day, so I'm happy to answer your questions here. That being said, if you do have a limited amount of time and do need to leave right at the bottom of the hour or leave early, you can always catch the recording afterwards. All right, so James says, we are ready when you are, so let's get going. Now, before we even get going with showing some stuff, we do have a question from Patricia. She says, are the leadership teams allowed to give us copies of our reports every month? And which reports are you referring to? Things like the PALMS report? And if so, most members in most regions around the world have direct access to all of this information just by logging into BNI Connect. I mean, you can just log into BNI Connect here, as I am, and right on the home screen, you have your statistics. So you have your My BNI Business right here, which is your PALMS report, essentially. So it's all of the things that you've done in the last 12 months in the lifetime in BNI. And if you click on the My Personal Participation Report, this will show you your personal participation report. So this is all of your statistics from the PALMS and from your activity in the chapter. So you don't even have to wait for a leadership team to print copies out. That being said, they are allowed to, but you don't even have to wait for that. In addition, most members have access to most of the reports, including in most cases the summary PALMS report, under the reports menu. So does that answer your question, Patricia? All right, so looking at some of the other things that leadership teams do on a regular basis, let's take a look. In order to access some of the other functionality for leadership teams, we do need to go a little bit deeper beyond the home page here. Now, a couple of things people have said to me over the years, I can't find anything in BNI Connect. I don't know where to look. It's so hidden. It's not user-friendly, not intuitive. I understand all that. BNI Connect is a huge program, so some things you do have to access through the menus. Here's the way I remember it personally. Most of the time you're going to be hanging out in one of three places: network, operations, and reports. Now, network is always going to be the social media components, the groups, the connections, the testimonials. Social media stuff, go to network. Now, operations and reports are always going to be output only. Reports are output only. So if you're looking for stats, if you're looking to, you're not looking to enter anything just to get stuff out, the place you want to go to is the reports. On the other hand, if you're looking to do something, if you're looking to create something in BNI Connect, you want to go to the operations menu. So if you want to assign a speaker, if you want to assign a mentoring pair, if you want to enter a PALMS report, you're always going to go to operations for that. So let's take a look. What's available to us under the operations menu as a leadership team? So I'm going to go to operations. And on the left-hand side, you'll see the different functions that we have here. And on the right-hand side, there may be multiple opportunities within each of these functions. And again, depending on your level in the chapter, so whether you're a member, whether you're a growth coordinator, whether you're a president or vice president, whether in some cases you're a director consultant, will depend on which of these things that you have access to. And there may be some things that you don't even see on your menu right now. That's okay. It means that you either don't have the permission to those. That might even mean that your region has decided not to use that piece of functionality. So if you do have questions about why you might not be seeing anything, the best person to talk to might be your director consultant or your executive director. Taking a look, we do have things on the left-hand side. We have managed visitors, meeting management, which is going to be things like the PALMS and the speakers for a meeting. We have managed memberships, and again, depending on your region, this is where you would go to either approve renewal applications or possibly to enter new applications, things like that. Manage Goals is the goals program for your chapter. We actually did a webinar on that on Friday if you'd like to check the recording out. We have the mentoring program, which allows you to assign a mentor-mentee pair so that they get weekly emails. Create Emails has a couple of special functions in it that I'll let you know about. And finally, the Managed News. Managed News, I'm not going to touch today, but it has to do with a news feed that's on your chapter and regional website. So let's take a look at one of the first things that we can do here. And One of the things that I always found really challenging as a leadership team person, by the way, I am a member of BNI. I've been a member of BNI since 2002. I'm also a director consultant. I've been just about every position on the leadership team. So over the years before BNI Connect, it was always a struggle to get in touch with my chapter, to be able to send out an email saying, oh yeah, by the way, remember this week we're having a visitor's day, or whatever else we needed to let the chapter know about. But now we have this thing called Create Email. And under Create Email, the very first option in here is Email My Chapter. This one has been a lifesaver to me. I can click on Email My Chapter, and what this will do is to give me the chapter distribution list. So now I can just take this, right-click it and choose Copy, start up my own email program. I happen to use Outlook. And I can now put this, I highly recommend putting all these email addresses into the BCC line here, and I can send out my message. So, before BNI Connect, we'd have to go in and maybe do a search for the last message that was sent out and hit reply all, but, it's never right. There's always somebody that's not on the list, or somebody that, just left the chapter, and we're continuing to send them emails. So from a leadership team perspective, that has been a lifesaver to me. There's also a way to send out a custom visitor invitation. This is another just great little tool, especially for you visitor hosts that are trying to organize visitors days for your chapter. The visitor invitation is an easy way to just quickly invite somebody to the chapter. So let's say I wanted to invite Victor Visitor. And the company name is from Visico, and their email address. So I can put in their email address. I'm going to use my own so that you guys can see what this looks like when I receive the email. Oops, I spelled my own email address wrong. And then a personal message. The personal message, what it's going to do is take all this information and put it into a custom template. And the personal message is going to be, the first paragraph, so you introducing yourself. It was great meeting you. I would love to introduce you to my referral partners. Click send. This is going to, again, take that, put it all into this custom email, and send out an invitation to the chapter. And here's the invitation that's received. It's nice because it puts your information in there, puts all your chapter information in, briefly describes BNI, and lets them know to RSVP with you. So if your chapter's struggling to invite people, this is a great tool to just be able to send out some quick invitations. Now that we've sent out some invitations, let's look at some of the other things that we can do in BNI Connect and flowing through the process. And once you start inviting people, when people say, yes, I'd like to come to BNI, you do want to make sure you register those people to visit the meeting. Now we do that, again, we're in the operations menu under Manage Visitors. Now a lot of times a member can register their own visitors for an upcoming meeting. In some places that may be the responsibility of a visitor host or a secretary treasurer. But either way, when somebody says, yes, I want to come to a meeting, it's a really good idea to go to Manage Visitors and register a prospective visitor. Doing this is just filling out a very quick form. I'm going to choose their profession and specialty. And let's say that this was Visi Visitor, and he's going to be coming next week or on Wednesday to the meeting. And company name Visico. Can put whatever and as much information as you possibly can in here. Now the nice thing about this is that because the members are doing this directly, or even the visitor can do this through the regional website, this makes the whole process from a leadership team perspective. The more information you can get members to input themselves, the less that you have to input as a leadership team. So when members do this directly, the information goes right into the database, and when it comes to actually marking visitors and then eventually putting an application in, that data entry only has to happen once, and it happens way back here when they're a prospective visitor. So once again, I'm going to put my own email address in here. and click Submit. The other nice thing about this whole registration process is that it continues the very professional looking and branded email templates that are sent out. So for example here, as Visi Visitor, I just got an email saying, hey, thanks for registering. You are confirmed to visit. And now I get an email letting me know about that. I'll also get an email 2 days before the meeting reminding me that I am registered. And the leadership team is notified when this happens as well. So my president, my vice president, my secretary treasurer, my visitor hosts, and my director consultant all got an email saying, hey, guess what? A visitor is coming. You may want to call them up and pre-welcome them to the meeting. Continuing along the visitor vein, once a visitor is registered, hopefully they actually show up to the meeting. And after they show up to the meeting, you want to make sure that you're building your visitors database. Again, this is usually done by a visitor host, but it can be done by other positions as well, such as secretary treasurers, or maybe there's a data entry helper position in your chapter. But whenever a visitor comes to the meeting and shows up at the meeting, the first thing you want to do is check your registered visitors and see if you can find them. So for example, we had myself that was scheduled to visit a meeting. Let's say I went to the meeting last week on 3/25. I can now go in and mark the attendance. So again, the great thing is that all of this information is already filled out. I don't have to go off of the sign-in sheet as a visitor host. I just need to go in and mark the person as attended. I can also choose whether or not to add the person to the POMS report. And sometimes you may not want to, because if it's, let's say, their second visit or even their third visit, you don't want to always add them to the POMS because that will lower your conversion ratio. I select the person to give credit to, fill out any missing information, and again, I can choose whether or not to send the visitor follow-up email. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. And now this visitor is being entered into the POMS report as well. Now you'll notice that that record disappeared from our regular visitor registration list. It's now going to be in our visitors that have visited the chapter database, which means we can mark it to them later. We can re-invite them back to a meeting. We can even, once they become a member, be able to reuse that information and convert them from a visitor into a member without having to type it all back in again. And by the way, as somebody that just visited, I got a nice thank you email saying thank you so much for visiting. All right, let me go back to the operations menu. We've talked about visitors now and getting visitors into the system. There's other things that we do on a weekly basis as a leadership team besides the visitor portion of it. There is also the meeting itself, and there's a couple of things that we want to do now before the meeting. One thing that usually secretary treasurers do is they manage the speaker rotation. It's a great idea to put the speaker rotation into BNI Connect. One of the reasons for that is that on the regional websites and on your chapter website, so if I go to my chapter website, which is bniri.com, and Wakefield, all of the upcoming speakers, as long as they're entered into BNI Connect, they get a little plug on your chapter website. So that's one reason. It's just another place that Google finds and indexes you out there on the internet. In addition to that, all of these speakers will get a reminder. So they get a reminder 2 days before their chapter meeting and 6 days before their chapter meeting, reminding them, hey, you're speaking this week. Just a reminder, bring a door prize. Entering speakers is pretty easy. Again, if we're entering things, we're under the operations menu, and now we're going to be under the view edit speakers. So if I'd like to see who is currently listed as a speaker, I can just do a search, and I can go back to the beginning of March, for example. The other nice thing is when you start keeping it in here, you will have a historical record as well of everybody that has spoken. So I have a historical record here dating back to 2014. with this chapter, and I can see who did their presentations on a week-by-week basis. So now I know who to schedule next. So going back just to this week, I can see I do have some people scheduled for the next couple of weeks here. So Adam Sandler is going to be next week, and then Albert Camus. Let's say that I need to schedule out into May now. Now, I don't recommend going much further than 6 to 8 weeks. If somebody does cancel, you do have to delete somebody and then add a new person in. Or if you really want to shift the whole schedule, you would have to delete the person, add the person in, then delete the next person, add the person in. So not too bad going out, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, but going out, for the whole year might be problematic, especially to slot in new members as well. But to assign a speaker, I just click on Assign Speaker. I can choose when their speaking date is going to be, and at this point I'm going out into May. I choose who they are from the list. Now you'll notice that there might be some people on your list that you don't recognize. For example, if you're in the United States, you might see John Mayer on the list. The reason for that is that it does also include not just your chapter members, but your executive director and your director consultants and the national director, who happens to be John Mayer. So you can also, at this point, if you know that your director consultant is coming 1 week, you can actually choose them from the list in order to speak. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose somebody here. And you can enter whatever you'd like to as the topic. All right, now we have somebody that is scheduled to speak that following week. While we're talking about assignments, another thing that you can do is to use the mentoring program. So if I go back to operations, the mentoring program in BNI Connect allows you to assign 2 people in the chapter together as a mentor and a mentee pair. Usually you do this with new members, but it doesn't have to be a new member. It could be somebody that has been around for a couple of years and just needs a refresher. But what this does is it assigns them as a mentor-mentee pair, and each week for the next 7 to 8 weeks, they will get an email saying, you're now on week 2 of the mentoring program. Here's what you should be talking about. You're now on week 3. Here's what you should be talking about. So it keeps them focused and in line with that program. To assign them, it's pretty straightforward. We just go to mentoring program and we can assign a mentor or mentee, or we can view people and see what the assignments are. You choose when you would like them to start getting emails. So if I particularly know I would like them to get emails, for example, on Fridays or maybe on Wednesdays, I can choose that date to be the start date. And then choose who the mentor is and who the mentee is. I can then click Submit, and beginning on Friday, these 2 people will be getting a weekly email helping them to stay on track with the mentoring program. Now, the final thing I'm going to show you when it comes to the operations menu is the meeting management and the entering of POMs. Now, View POMs allows you to go in and to see all of your individual POMs reports one at a time. And usually it's the vice president doing this. But again, this could be a president or a secretary-treasurer. Anybody that has permissions should be able to enter this screen. Now, I can go back as long as I want to and see all of the POMs that were entered. Now, of course, up here in Antarctica, my vice president isn't really doing very well staying on top of the POMs reports, but we do have a couple that have been entered in the past couple of months. If you do need to make a correction to a POMs report, you can. You can go into this View Chapter POMs Summary. I did a search, and let's say I know that there's an error on the December meeting. I click the word completed in order to be brought to that POMs report. Here I can view all the details of that POMs report. And let's say that Harvey Keitel said to me, that wasn't a $5,000 job, that was a $50,000 job. If I have permissions to, I can then unlock that POMS report. I'm going to continue past this for a second. And I can go in, change this from 5,000 to 50,000, and I can click Submit. Asks me, am I sure I want to submit the POMS? Yes, I do. I'll see a summary come up on the screen. And now we have the correction here from 5,000 to 50,000. Now, if you'd like to enter a POMS report fresh, you can do that from the view screen by clicking the Enter POMS button. Or, of course, you can go back to Operations Chapter, Meeting Management, and just click the Enter POMS button. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click on Enter POMS. Now, you'll notice the first thing that we see before we even get to the POMS report is it says that we need to review our visitors. So you'll notice before when I entered a visitor into BNI Connect, it asked me if I wanted to add them to the POMS. The Vice President still has final control over that POMS report. So this is going to ask us really to verify each of these. So we can see here that Alfred E. Newman is quoted with inviting 2 people on the 25th, and Jasmine Greenup was invited by BNI on the 25th as well. So I can go in if I need to as a vice president and say, yes, I approve this one. And whether or not I approve the other ones as well. So I can say, yes, I approve this one. And actually, this one was not done by Alfred E. Newman. If I need to, I can click on the visitor name. This will bring me up to this screen. I can say this wasn't Alfred E. Newman. It was Art Garfunkel that brought this person. I can make that change if necessary. And now I'm ready to accept this. Now what happens is that will now be put into credit into the POMS reports. So now if I'd like to enter a POMS report, I'm going to enter the POMS report for last week. And what you'll see is that because I approved those visitors for this week's meeting, that those visitors have already been entered. 1, 2, and 3. Now, if your chapter happens to be doing the online slips, most of this information will be filled out for you already. Otherwise, it is basically just filling out a spreadsheet. For those of you that may not know, RGI and RGO, that's referrals given. RG is referrals given. I is for an inside referral, and O is for an outside referral. An inside referral is when 2 members do business with each other. So a member refers themselves to somebody else in BNI. We consider that a Tier 1 or an inside referral. An outside referral or a Tier 2 or higher referral is when the BNI member introduces someone else into the network. So somebody from outside of the BNI family. Could be a cousin, it could be an aunt, it could be a friend, it could be a colleague, it could be a coworker, it could be a client of yours. So whoever else, as long as it's not you, that would be an outside referral. Same thing for referrals received. V is visitors, one-to-ones, thank you for closed business, and CEUs. And it's just a matter of filling this out. So if if Jacob had a referral for Rebecca, that would be 1 referral given and 1 referral received. If Thea had a one-to-one with Victoria, that would be a one-to-one for Thea and a one-to-one for Victoria. And you can keep just going through this until it's all filled out. Be sure to also take attendance, present, absent, late, medical, and substitute. Let's see. Cheryl says, could you please explain RRO again? So the O is for outside. Oop, and you know what? I should have put this. That's probably why it was confusing. If Jacob had a referral for Rebecca, that would be a referral received. So RG is referral given, RR is referral received. So in every referral, there's two different sides to it. So there's the referral giver and the referral receiver. So RG is the referral giver, RR is the referral receiver. I is for tier 1, meaning that, for example, let's say that Alfred and Albert here did business with each other. That would be a referral given inside and a referral given outside. Now, let's say that Adam Sandler was introducing a friend of his to Ricky Martin. That would be an outside referral given and an outside referral received by Ricky Martin. So does that make sense, Cheryl? All right, so when you're all set, let's say that you only got halfway through because you have a humongous chapter. You could always save this as draft if you want to and come back to it later. Mark as holiday. If your chapter does not meet on a certain week, let's say it was up here in the Northeast, I'm in Rhode Island, we had quite a few days where we got snowed out and not able to have our chapter meeting. Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, if your chapter doesn't meet, you do need to go in and submit a holiday POMS report, which basically closes out the report. If you're using online slips, it'll push those all to next week's meeting. So you do want to do that right away as soon as you can. Go in and mark it as a holiday. Otherwise, if it's just a regular meeting, you want to click Submit POMS. That will save all of this information, and now this will be part of all of the official statistics and reports everywhere. So this is a completed report now, and it's all set to go. Now, if you are using online slips, make sure that you check the slips audit report as well. This will show you all of the weekly activity, including any visitors that were entered. And that's the POMS reports, and that's also going to conclude our operations menu functions. Does anybody have any questions about the operations and the various data input that you have here in BNI Connect? No questions. Excellent. So I know we are at the bottom of the hour. As I said, this one usually goes on a little bit longer than just the half hour. If you guys are okay sticking around, what I'd like to do is just to show you a couple of reports, probably only a couple of minutes worth. And then, again, I'm happy to open it up to any questions that you guys might have. All right, so let's take a look at the reports menu now and take a look at some of the reports. Now, there's a ton of reports here. I am not going to go through all of them. Best idea is to just go in and basically click around and play with them. You really can't break the reports. Again, because they're all just read only, they really not much you can break. Let me switch to the United States. I'm going to do this with my own personal chapter so you guys have some real live data. Our data there in Antarctica is a bit spotty. So let's take a look at this from a real perspective. All right, just going in order here, the member training report. This one is going to be very important, especially for you that might be on the membership committee or might be a vice president, in reviewing people's performance, as well as for secretary treasurers. If you need to, before you schedule somebody for a 10-minute presentation, you do need to make sure that they attended a member success program. So doing a training report is pretty straightforward. You just choose all or what type of training you're going to be searching against. However, there's a great one here, show not attended. Keep in mind that this ignores dates, but let's say I'm the secretary treasurer and I need to just check to make sure that everybody's done the member success program. I can check this off, show not attended, and then choose member success program from the list. I can then click go, and I can see which of my members, and it looks like we have one member only that hasn't yet taken the member success program. So A, I know not to schedule him, and as a leadership team person, I know to counsel Frederick to say, listen, you really got to get to a member success program. You have been in the chapter for quite some time now, so let's get this taken care of. And the chapter roster report, again, a fairly simple report, just has really your chapter roster in it, as well as contact information. If you're looking for a quick phone number, this is really the easiest place to get that phone number. It also shows a quick 90-day summary POMS. But more importantly, do you have your leadership team all filled out? You want to make sure that your education coordinators listed and all the people in your membership committee. So this is the place to go to check who is assigned officially in BNI Connect to the various functions, especially if your, let's say, mentor coordinator or visitor host comes to you and says, I don't seem to be able to enter the visitors. Well, the easiest place to look is the chapter roster and say, well, I can see that you're not listed as a visitor host. That would be why you can't enter any visitors in. To make those assignments, you do have to check with your regional office, check with your director consultant, your executive director to make those assignments. And if you're looking for your director consultant's phone number, here it is under regional leadership. You can get your director consultant's name and their phone number. The membership dues report, the bread and butter of the membership committee, as well as the secretary treasurer and vice president. Just click this report. It will put it in sort order by default of everybody that's coming up for renewal. So you can see here the people that you want to be concentrating on are the ones in bold. Those are the ones that should already have their applications in and in process. And you want to make sure you look at least 6 months out as well to see who's coming up for renewal, as well as the people that are, especially in 6 months. A lot of regions, a lot of chapters around the world do 6-month reviews. Doing a review right at the renewal time doesn't really give people a chance to ask for help or to fix things that might be wrong. Doing that review 6 months out is really helpful. So we really, as a chapter, I want to be looking at as somebody on the leadership team in my own chapter, I want to be looking at people in September, in October even, and possibly even November to really start working with those people and making sure that if they need any help, we can give them the help that they need. Skipping down a couple, the summary POMS report. Hopefully everybody knows about the POMS report. The thing that keep in mind that's very important about this report is that you can run this report for any length of time. So if I even want to go back to the beginning of the history of my chapter in 2002, I can do that if I want to. The one thing you do have to choose is whether or not you want to show or hide the dropped members. Now, if I include the dropped members, it will actually include every person that has ever been in my chapter. So you can see this list is really, 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 really long because it has all few hundred people that have ever joined and left the chapter. You can, if you want to, just run it without dropped members. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that these totals at the bottom in the yellow line, they will always include the contributions from the drop members, whether or not you're choosing to hide them in the list. So it'll still give you an accurate statistical history. It'll just kind of keep the fluff out. It'll keep the names out of the list. I'm just going to skip past a bunch of them and go right to the personal POMS report. The personal POMS report is really helpful, as I said, to membership committees and to vice presidents, especially doing member reviews, because it really does. It takes one person's name out of the list. And you can choose this again for any date range you want to, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 10 years, whatever you'd like. Click Go. And it takes their name out of the POMS and their weekly activity. So if you've ever had a member that says, hey, you know what, you have me marked down for 3 absences. I haven't been absent three times. You can actually go to this report and show them exactly which weeks they were marked as absent as well, without having to comb through hundreds of individual POMS reports. It also has their attendance history, number of members sponsored in that time, and their training history as well. Secretary Treasurers, before a person's 10-minute presentation, we always do like to introduce them using their bio. A lot of times we've always had to chase people down for their bio and send them multiple copies of the bio form for them to fill out. If they fill out their bio on their profile, you can always just go to the member details report and get their bio in a printer-friendly format right from here. So we can print this out and use this as the bio form for the introduction if you'd like to. And for those visitors, we also have the visitor report, which will give you all the member details. And if you're looking for the visitors for your upcoming meetings, there's the visitor registration report. And again, I do recommend that you go through at your leisure and click through some of these in order to find out what your favorite reports are. The very last thing I'm going to show you is that your region does have a document library that may have files that you may need in it, such as things like the agenda or visitor sign-in sheets or order forms or whatever else. Each region has their own. The place that you find that, it's on the My Network page. So if you go back to your home screen, you'll notice that you have these menus on the left-hand side. So if you go to My Network, this is another social media style networking panel. And within here, you'll have your connections and your groups and things like that, the regional events. But you also have a document library here. If you click on the More button, this will show you all of the documents that your region is sharing with you in that library. So if you're looking for the, for example, my region, we have the visitor sign-in sheet. We have a one-to-one discussion checklist, the member bio sheet. So all of these different things we can find in our chapter library. All right. That is the member tools and reports. Again, as I knew we would, we went about 15 minutes, a little bit over. That being said, I would like to open this up for questions. And again, I am happy to stay here until every single question is answered. So what questions do you have and how can I help you? While you're thinking about any last minute questions, a couple of other just reminders. This is being recorded. You'll be able to find it on the support site. The best way to do that is to click on this question mark. That will take you to the support site, support.bniconnect.com. And again, it will be listed here in recorded webinars as well as on our page, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. I would also absolutely love it if you gave us a like on Facebook. If you follow us here, we do webinar reminders and special announcements from Dr. Meisner and tips and tricks and things like that as well. So please do join us up on Facebook. Cheryl says, could you go back to where the documents are? So sure, the documents are going to be located. So here's my BNI business page, right? I do need to click on My Network, which is the next option down here. So you have My BNI Business, and then My Network will switch the page. And on this dashboard here, we have Documents. And if you click More, that will show you your regional documents. Now this is, again, it's a regional library, so your executive director, your director consultants, your team uploads whatever files they feel are important to share. Cheryl says, can anybody upload documents? And only your regional team can upload documents, so only your executive director and your regional admin, maybe your director consultants, it depends. They have the permissions to give that out, but it will only be people on the regional team. So members cannot upload documents there, just the regional team. Any other questions? Carrie says, can I talk about connections? Absolutely. I'd love to talk about connections. So connections real quick. So if we go to My Network, we have connections here. So connections are going to be, if you go to Manage or you go to Network Connections, what this is, it's really your BNI address book. So it's a way that as you meet people in BNI, you can add them to your connections list, kind of like being connected on LinkedIn, except it's exclusive to BNI members around the world. So we can see here I have my all connections. This is really, again, my BNI address book. So I could, if I'm looking to get back in touch with somebody, I can click on their name. This will pull up a shortened version of their profile. So you can see here I have all their contact information, their website, their YouTube address, their Facebook address, all that. I can give them a testimonial. I can send them a message. I can view their full profile. You can also search for people within your connections. Now, you will automatically be connected to everybody in your chapter. So that just happens automatically. When somebody joins the chapter, you're automatically connected to them. When somebody leaves the chapter, you're automatically disconnected from them. If you'd like to add other people as connections, whether it's people in your region or whether it is me in another region or somebody else anywhere around the world, what you want to do is search for those connections. So you can either click on Add Connection here, or from any screen in BNI, you should see this magnifying glass up in the upper right-hand corner. And if I click that magnifying glass, I could search for, again, anybody in BNI. So Carrie Wakely, I'm going to search for you. I hope you don't mind, since you asked the question. So here you are, Carrie Wakely. You're in the Pinnacle Brokers chapter, is that correct? So I can then open up your profile, and I'll see all of your information. So there's a picture of you, there's what chapter you're in, currently a member. I can see your industry and your business and what keywords. You're not sharing your email address or phone numbers right now, so if I wanted to, I couldn't contact you yet. But I could go to your website or to your social networking links. I could see your connections, who else you're connected with, which is mostly going to be people from your chapter. I could click through those, by the way. I can see your testimonials, if you're sharing any photos or if you're involved in any groups, and your training records. So all of this, you can see when you see people's profiles. If I'd like to, then I can invite you to be, we can be connected. I do that by clicking on Add You to My Connections. I can customize this message. Thanks for being on the webinar today. I would like to add you to my connections. So you should receive a notification about that. Once you get the notification, and you should have it pretty much immediately, go back to your connections. So I'm going to close this. You can see if I close that window, my search is still here. I'm going to go back to Network Connections. And once here, you should see Received Requests down here at the bottom. Now, I have one from Kay. I could read her message, and then I can go ahead and accept it or ignore it or reject it. Right now, I'm going to hold on to this because I want to save this message so I can get back to her. So I'm not going to connect to her quite yet until I can respond to her question. And that essentially is your connections that you can see there. Does that help answer your question there, Carrie? Awesome. And again, it is a pretty powerful platform because we have 170,000 active members in BNI, and in just a couple of weeks we will have all of them in BNI Connect. We're going to be migrating in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, as well as a couple of small places in the United States. And once that is done, except for the country of Israel, every single BNI member around the world will be in available and searchable there in this magnifying glass. So in expanding your network, really it's about finding other people to do business with. So if you click on the magnifying glass, a good way to expand your network is to either look for people that would either be good referral partners. The way I use it, for example, just to give you to answer your question, how do you expand your network? I'm a computer guy. I own a computer business. We have clients that have offices in multiple states. Now, it's just not cost effective most of the time for me to travel to fix a computer that might be in Florida or might be in Maryland or might be in California. So what we do is if we have run out of options, I turn to BNI Connect and I'll look for somebody like computer repair in Florida. And I have actually passed quite a few referrals this way to people, and then I can narrow this down a little bit and maybe say I need someone in Palm Springs. So I have a couple of examples here. I can click on Chatham here. And again, this person is sharing his phone number, so at that point I could give him a call or I can email him, and it looks like a trustworthy individual. I can also see if he has any testimonials, but at this point I would reach out to him and say, I might have a referral for you. Let's talk about it and see if we can do that. That right there is going to expand my network. You can also do that if you're just looking for collaborative relationships with other BNI members around the world, or there's specific markets even in other countries. Let's say that I'm interested in just maybe even having a conversation with computer repair people in the UK. Now, this one I may want to go to the advanced search. And let's say I just want to do the keyword repair, and I want to make sure I'm using the category computer, and I just want people in the United Kingdom. So from here I could do a more advanced search, come up with these people, start connecting with them. I could look at their profiles and see if there's some good collaboration that can be done there. The other way is with those groups. And the groups are really the discussions that you're having with other people around the world. And you get to that by network groups. And right now there are, let's see, somewhere in the vicinity of 566 active discussions that are happening, and so much diversity and concepts. In the city members, Hudson Valley, website developers, BNI Connect discussion group, freight forwarding, just you name it. This group right here looks like it's fairly new, but they're looking to really have the discussion that you're having right here. How do you use it to expand your network? So again, all different things that you can use, and once you get to know people, you make the connections, and again, we're about relationships in BNI. So it's not a get-rich-quick thing. It's a really building relationships on a global scale. This is just making it a little easier. Carrie, does that answer your question? Awesome. All right, do we have any additional questions? I'd love to answer those questions. All right, if there's no additional questions, thank you guys so much for being here with me today. Do feel free if you have any questions or follow-up after this. The best thing to do is to go to the support site and to submit a help ticket. If you go to support.bniconnect.com, you'll notice that at the top will be a thing that says submit a request. If you have any questions, just submit your questions. We'd be happy to answer those questions and help you out. Thanks again, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting.